So much has happened, and there's so much that's gone past. Your ex-husband, Eddie Van Halen, passed away.
Picture this. Two of the brightest names in pop culture, Valerie Bertinelli and Eddie Van Halen, look inseparable on magazine covers, yet they are racing toward heartbreak behind the scenes. For more than 25 years, the girl next door from television and the wild wizard of rock walked hand in hand, dazzling crowds with every red carpet grin. Everyone thought they found a rare kind of fairy tale love, but the real story carried bruises that no spotlight could hide. Now Valerie has finally lifted the curtain, telling the world why their marriage cracked and how she stitched her own spirit back together. Get ready, because the ride starts with their rise as a so-called golden couple, a match that seemed too shiny to chip. In the late 1970s, Valerie was not only an actress, she was a weekly guest in millions of homes when she played Barbara Cooper on One Day at a Time. Audiences trusted her gentle smile, her friendly laugh, and that good girl charm that felt like a warm blanket on cold nights. By the time she hit 20, she had already carried home 2 Golden Globe trophies, a dream few young performers dare to whisper out loud. While Valerie climbed steady steps on sound stages, Eddie Van Halen was setting concert halls on fire at 26, rewriting the very rules of rock. With albums like Van Halen, 1984, and Fair Warning roaring out of radios, Eddie changed what fans thought guitar strings could even do. His fingers blurred across the frets, his energy thundered across arenas, and his rebel scream became the anthem for a new generation. Valerie lived inside structured schedules, bright sitcom lights, and carefully rehearsed lines. Yet Eddie lived in the chaotic pulse of midnight shows, road trips, and roaring after parties. Their worlds had not been farther apart. But in 1980, sparks flew when Valerie asked her manager to introduce them. Curious about the hurricane that was Eddie. Clean-cut television met raw rock noise, and fans gasped when the pair married in April 1981, only a few months after their first hello. The media could not get enough, calling them the sweetheart and the shredder, a living contrast that sold newspapers overnight. Behind the glitter, Valerie juggled sunrise call times on One Day at a Time with red-eye flights to catch Eddie somewhere on tour. He rehearsed for hours. She filmed for hours, and they passed on another like ships chasing different tides of fame. Eddie thrived on impulse, late-night jam sessions, and endless parties. Yet Valerie felt safe in family dinners and predictable routines. Their love was real, but so was the distance that kept widening every single day. Crowds saw perfect smiles, yet tension built silently, waiting for its moment to explode. But what happened next was even more shocking. The cracks at first looked tiny would split open into deep canyons. Soon after the vows, Eddie faced a brutal enemy, his growing dependence on harmful substances that followed him from stage to tour bus to hotel room. What started as casual indulgence turned into a daily fight that swallowed not only Eddie, but the heart of their marriage. Valerie found herself caring for a man who could play guitar like thunder, but could not escape the grip of addiction. She cheered him through rehab attempts, breathed relief during sober months, and then watched hope crash when relapse returned like a storm. Eddie's health spiraled, and the diagnosis of mouth cancer forced surgeons to remove a third of his tongue, a nightmare for any musician. Even that terrifying surgery could not stop him from lighting another cigarette or pouring another drink, and the pain cut Valerie like glass. She became nurse, manager, and emotional shield, handling appointments and bills, while feeling lonely in a marriage crowded by fame yet empty of closeness. The isolation pushed both of them toward affairs that were less about thrill and more about searching for comfort that had vanished at home. Years later, Valerie admitted an affair during one of their darkest seasons, explaining that she was starving for kindness and fell into arms that felt safe for a moment. The guilt and secrecy only deepened the divide, turning small misunderstandings into walls too high to climb. Valerie's own pain showed up on her plate, and emotional eating spiraled into weight gain that tabloids attacked without mercy. Public shaming drove her farther from red carpets and into quiet rooms where anxiety and sadness whispered louder than applause ever did. She fought an eating disorder in private while cameras still broadcast reruns that showed her earlier cheerful self, a cruel mirror that made the hurt feel endless. Hope flickered, but every relapse and every headline blew on the embers, threatening to snuff them out. Still she held on, believing that love could win over chaos. Yet love alone was not enough to tame the storm. Their once golden romance became living proof that fame does not shield anyone from heartbreak, addiction, or silent despair. Valerie and Eddie drifted in separate circles, united only by worry for their son Wolfgang, who watched the grown-ups become strangers in the same house. Each new tour, each new filming schedule, and each new tabloid rumor pulled them farther apart until the marriage stood on one last fragile thread. Finally, the moment came when Valerie knew she could not save them both, and she chose survival over shared collapse. It was a choice filled with tears and trembling courage, but it set the stage for the next chapter of healing she never thought she would have to write. Behind every award and guitar solo there lived a complicated love story scarred by addiction, distance, and the crushing glare of fame. Valerie now shares its story so others can see the hidden cost of glittery headlines and learn that even beloved stars must fight for their own peace. Friends who visited the tour bus recall walking into a moving thunderstorm of sound, smoke, and laughter, all spinning around Eddie like moths around a flame. Valerie, stepping on that bus in her neat jeans and shy grin, looked like a visitor from another planet. Yet she tried her best to fit in. She learned to nod through long technical talks about amps and pedals, even though she could barely hear her own thoughts above the grinding volume. No script could have prepared her for that life, but she kept trying because she believed love asked for effort. Meanwhile, Eddie gazed at sitcom sets and wondered how she memorized pages of dialogue without losing her mind. Those bright studio lights felt cold to him, so he stayed quiet beside the camera and counted minutes until the next show on the road. Early on, they laughed at their opposite rhythms, calling one another anchor and kite, each hoping balance would come naturally. At first, that joke felt sweet, yet soon the strings stretched so tight that both feared it would snap. Travel left them exhausted. Valerie would fly overnight after filming, land in a strange city, jump into a van, then sprint backstage just in time for Eddie to finish his encore. Their hellos and goodbyes sometimes happened in the same breath, and it was thrilling until it was not. Pressure poured in from every corner. Studio bosses demanded perfect ratings, record executives demanded bigger tours, and gossip writers hunted for cracks in the storybook marriage. Whispers of Eddie's substance use drifted through the industry long before headlines confirmed it. Valerie heard them all, and each whisper stung, because she never knew which rumor would become tomorrow's truth. Therapy sessions came and went. Some weeks they shared honest tears with counselors, promising to change, while other weeks Eddie skipped the appointment and chose the stage instead. Valerie sat alone in the waiting room, clutching hope like fragile glass. After Eddie's surgery, the band paused, but the break only deepened his restlessness. He wrote riffs on hospital napkins, jotted lyrics in the margins of medical bills. Anything to outrun silence that scared him more than pain. But miracles grew thin. Each slip back into old habits felt like watching a fire restart in a house that was still smoldering. By then, Valerie knew love was not a hose strong enough to douse those flames. Eddie blamed himself for her tears, then blamed the endless cycle of touring for his own spiral. But blame healed nothing. Their conversations turned into tired records that skipped on the same sad line. Their son Wolfgang felt the tension in the hallways, learning too early that fame could not buy calm. He curled into music just as his dad had done, hoping sound would muffle the storm. In private messages, Valerie begged friends for advice, asking whether leaving might break Eddie or save them both. The thought of divorce felt like pulling the plug on life support, yet she also feared dying inside if she stayed. The final split did not happen in one dramatic scene. It was more like a dimmer switch slowly turning down, a light fading until darkness felt normal. When Valerie finally said we need to separate, the silence afterward felt both terrifying and merciful. Imagine a romance that crumbles without a single slam of a door, without shouting, without cameras catching one angry glare, only a hush that feels louder than thunder. No matter how wide the distance stretched between Valerie Bertinelli and Eddie Van Halen, their story refused to fade away quietly. The marriage did not end in a headline-grabbing brawl. It slipped into history like a whispered secret that everyone sensed yet nobody fully heard. Before that last chapter closed, Valerie would later confess moments of raw honesty, proving the wounds were miles deeper than the public ever guessed. Hold tight, because what comes next is the almost silent exit that left fans gasping, wondering what really echoed through their home once the amplifiers fell silent. In 2001, rumors swirled like smoke, yet confirmation still stunned Hollywood when it finally arrived. A simple filing that revealed Valerie and Eddie were no longer side by side after 26 years. There was no televised meltdown, no harsh words hurled across magazines. Instead, a plain statement floated out, leaving fans aching for details that never came. No fierce press conference followed. No angry back-and-forth interviews lit up late-night talk shows. The public was left to connect the dots alone, and every empty space invited fresh gossip. Even though the legal finish did not arrive until December 2007, reporters found little to print during the long wait. Valerie, once seen as a steady anchor, disappeared from microphones and flashbulbs. She did not feed tabloids with tearful confessions. She poured every spare heartbeat into her son, Wolfgang, guarding him from the chaos swirling outside their front door. The mission became clear: protect the child, rebuild a private life, and breathe away from the roar of rock stardom. Work offers still flickered, yet she kept most projects to a gentle glow, refusing red carpet dazzles or promotional stunts. The girl who once stood under studio lights chose backyard sunsets instead. Gossip writers painted their own wild pictures. Some claimed a classic Hollywood affair. Others blamed years of clashing lifestyles. People happily filled the silence with invented drama, asking if Eddie's storm-tossed rock life wrecked a marriage or if deeper shadows are behind closed curtains. Because Valerie and Eddie refused to explain, mystery thickened. Every public sighting became a potential clue. Was that forced smile proof of trouble? Was that rare hug proof of hope? Fans who had cheered their rise now study paparazzi photos like detectives hunting for hidden meaning. Yet Valerie maintained her vow of quiet. Years rolled by with only whispers to mark the passage of what once looked like a fairy tale union. The marriage felt trapped in time, a puzzle missing its final piece. Many wondered whether the public had ever truly known the pair at all. The shine of their so-called perfect image did not match the slow unraveling taking place behind locked doors, and the contrast gnawed at curious minds everywhere. Eventually the truth surfaced. But Valerie needed almost 2 decades before she let the world peek inside the locked rooms of her heart. When she finally spoke, it was not for gossip. It was for healing. Her words did not center on legal papers. They traced deeper scars carved by years of quiet pain. Even as Valerie revealed those hidden reasons, one haunting question stayed. How did a love crown its flawless end in such quiet heartbreak? And what steps led Valerie to face the hardest truth of all? Valerie swung the door open in 2008 with her memoir Losing It, and the gas that followed could have rattled arena rafters. For years, people suspected Eddie's battle with addiction. Yet Valerie confirmed the struggle was not a passing phase, but a relentless storm of harmful substance and alcohol that reshaped their entire world. She wrote with no filter, sharing the impossible tug-of-war between loving Eddie's brilliant, gentle soul and fearing the destructive pull of his dependencies. Her pages showed love tangled with hurt, hope tangled with despair, and her fight to cling to a partner who often vanished into his own darkness. The habits did not wound only Eddie. They left Valerie standing in emotional solitude despite being technically married. That loneliness was not just physical distance. It was the aching absence of trust and comfort. Valerie broke another wall of silence when she admitted an affair during the darkest stretch of their marriage, explaining it sprang from desperate hunger for warmth she could not find a home. The memoir shattered the fairy tale picture of the golden couple, replacing it with a raw story of pain survived through sheer willpower. Valerie refused to paint Eddie as a villain. She portrayed a talented, fragile man wrestling demons neither of them fully understood or conquered together. Her goal was not reopening wounds. It was starting the long climb toward personal recovery. She credited therapy with helping her untangle years of confusion and guiding her toward sobriety and self-acceptance. Losing became a lighthouse for readers facing their own storms, showing that endurance and honesty can light a path through choking fog. Valerie dug even deeper in her second book, Enough Already, released in 2022, peeling away the final layers of the perfect marriage myth. She confessed to idolizing both Eddie and the relationship itself, gripping a dream that never matched reality. They had met too young, too unprepared, and without the tools needed to handle fame, addiction, and isolation. By holding those truths up to sunlight, Valerie finally freed herself from illusions that had weighed on her shoulders for decades. Imagine a storybook romance that morphs into a high-stakes survival tale where the dragons are heartbreak, illness, and years of unspoken sorrow. Valerie Bertinelli and Eddie Van Halen once glittered like the dream couple. Yet in 2024, Valerie shocked the world by declaring Eddie was no longer a partner in any way that mattered. Her brave confession echoed for anyone who was loved behind locked doors and felt the rope snap. Valerie revealed they had been spiritually divorced for nearly 20 years before any paperwork appeared. Her feelings faded while the man she adored changed under the weight of distance and addiction. One plain sentence shattered the last illusion and revealed the hidden heartbreak of their long separation. Filing for separation brought tears, yet also relief. She said choosing peace sometimes means accepting a dream has ended. She journaled gratitude lists and learned to cook meals that nourish mood rather than anxiety. Sobriety milestones stacked up: 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, and she rewarded progress with sunrise beach walks. Followers battling their own storms thanked her for sharing each victory. Valerie's anxiety video showed raw vulnerability without filters. Millions watched the public figure normalize hidden struggle and demonstrate coping tools in real time. Her romance with Mike bloomed over joke-filled live streams and home-baked cookies. The calm breakup statement thanking him for gentle love, even if not forever, earned widespread respect. Valerie's routine now includes dawn meditation, brisk walks with rescue dogs, drafting a new self-help book, and filming lifestyle segments that turn kitchens into safe spaces. She reminds everyone that a good meal shared with friends can feel like a hug for the soul. Looking back, Valerie sees each hardship as a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. She became fluent in resilience, teaching that happily ever after might look different than first imagined, yet happiness is still possible when it is honest. The journey continues. Valerie plans a podcast about mental strength and creative passion, plus a children's book with Wolfgang on courage in scary moments. Every project carries her trademark sincerity and one constant message: there's always a path back to the light.